Heya Cryptozens, it's 10 p.m. Pacific time. The date is October 6th. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. My name is Nikodemus, and I'll be your host as we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. Now, what has that scamp Kwon been up to? It looks like he's still in some trouble. And keep in mind, he says he's not on the run. He says he's been cooperative with the South Korean authorities. Someone apparently forgot to tell South Korea, because their Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued an order for Kwon to surrender his passport. What that means is he's got 2 weeks. He's got 2 weeks to turn his passport over. And if he fails to do so in the time allotted, then his passport will get canceled. Not only that, but he won't get another one. They'll just reject the request to have it reissued. He still says he's not running, though. But the South Koreans have been working really hard at getting him in custody. They issued an arrest warrant for him on September 14th. On the 26th of September, Interpol issued a red notice on Kwon. But that's what happens when people suspect you are at least partially responsible for the loss of over $40 billion of other people's money. But we'll come back to that. There was this rumor about Kwon. The rumor is Korean authorities have asked to have over $67 million of his Bitcoin frozen. Now, Terraform Labs, they have come out saying that this whole case is highly politicized against Kwon, that public pressure and not justice is the impetus behind filing the case. A Terraform Labs spokesperson said, quote, "We believe that this case has become highly politicized and that the actions of Korean prosecutors demonstrate unfairness and a failure to uphold basic rights guaranteed under Korean law." And here's their point. When they arrested Kwon, it wasn't because of a $40 billion erasure of investors' funds, what they said. They arrested him on securities laws because the Terra Luna incident wasn't illegal as such. According to a local, it wasn't just Kwon alone. The South Korean authorities have demanded a return of passports of a total of 6 Terraform Labs employees. Now, one employee found himself arrested. His name is Yumo, and the news around him is a little confusing. Some of that confusion comes from Kwon himself, so let's just cut right through that. Yumo is or was the head of the business team at Terraform Labs, and what happened is a court in Seoul issued an arrest warrant for Mr. Yu. That was in September. Here's where things get muddled, because on the 5th of October, a different court, the Seoul Southern District Court, also issued a warrant. Now here's the confusing part, because less than 48 hours, they rescinded that order. Apparently, the presiding judge said that it was difficult to see the need to arrest Yu, especially since another court in the same district issued that bench warrant on the 13th. That was with charges of Capital Markets Act and fraud for manipulating the price of Terra USD. According to the judge, he took a few things in consideration in his decision. Yu has a residence and family in South Korea. He is also barred from leaving the country. His was one of the 6 passports under the return order. But further, and this may bode well for Kwon, the judge questioned whether the Luna token was actually an investment contract security under Korean law. That said, Yu has not denied being at the helm of one of Terra's automated bots. Now here's where Kwon adds to the murkiness of the situation. Because after Yu was arrested, Kwon retweets an article that said the warrant had been rescinded, which is true. Kwon is still pretending that he's not in trouble, that Interpol isn't looking for him, that warrants haven't been sworn out for his arrest, that he is in danger of losing his passport and never getting it back. His actions to me seem to be that of a guy who knows he's boned. He knows he's in trouble, but his public persona has always been full of bluster and ballsiness. If it were me, I'd be in Seoul, passport surrendered, records open, total open book. I would be totally hand in glove working with the authorities to get this figured out. That is, unless it looks like I don't have a chance. If I know the gig is up, that either I'm guilty and everybody knows it or I'm getting railroaded, then at that point, there's no way I'm cooperating. I'm crawling down to the deepest, darkest hole I can imagine, run as long and hard as I can. And that seems to be what Do Kwon is doing here. Yeah, sure, he shows up on Twitter for whatever purpose. Is he bored and looking for some mental stimulation? Is he trying to throw people off his scent? Because unless he does something simple and foolish, just posting on Twitter won't be enough to get him caught. Especially if he has a big old pile of money somewhere, he can hide for a long time and still engage the world through Twitter. We'll see what happens. As we like to do on this show, let's take a look at the numbers. At the time of writing, the global crypto market cap is $956 billion. That's down 0.87%. The top 5 cryptos by market cap are Bitcoin down 1.1%, Ethereum down 0.1%, Tether, USDC, and Binance Coin down 2.82%. So this has been something of a joke for a while. If you want to do well at trading, find out whatever position Jim Cramer is in and then trade opposite him. Cramer is a host of a show called Mad Money on CNBC. He has this reputation for giving out investment tips and then proving to be wildly, wildly wrong. Just one example of many. August of 2021, he said Coinbase stock was cheap at $248. A little more than 13 months later, the stock continues to collapse on itself and is sitting around $72 at the time of writing. Tuttle Capital Management has submitted a preliminary prospectus filing with the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission. This prospectus is for 2 exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. They are funds that are centered around betting against Jim Cramer. Now, this still does require SEC approval to happen, but if it goes through, that means there will be a new short ETF named Inverse Cramer ETF and a long ETF called Long Cramer ETF. And they call it out in the prospectus. The objective is to provide results that are, quote, approximately the opposite of, before fees and expenses, the results of the investments recommended by television personality Jim Cramer. So this is just stocks. There's no crypto. But what they'll do, they'll basically take the opposite position of whatever Cramer picks on CNBC or Twitter. Quote, under normal circumstances, at least 80% of the fund's investments is invested in the inverse of securities mentioned by Cramer. Now, whether this is a serious thing or a novel way of getting attention in a bear market, that's not the first time that Tuttle Capital has pulled out something unusual. Late last year, they started an inverse ETF on NASDAQ. It was called the Turtle Capital Short Investment ETF, or SARK. CEO Matt Tuttle described it as something that had never been done before. And the purpose of SARK is to counter trade against the ARK ETF from Cathie Woods' ARK Invest. So it's a novel move that seems to be paying dividends because since SARK launched November of 2021, it's up 83.1%. In this market, the counter ETF is at 83.1% in less than a year. According to CoinGecko, Bitcoin dominance is 38.5%. Ethereum is at 16.29%. Then you've got USDT, USDC, and then Binance Coin coming in at 4.78%. XRP, BUSD, Cardano, Solana, and Dogecoin ran out the top 10. The crypto exchange OKX was blocked in Russia. Roskomnadzor is the name of their state media monitoring service. They're a local non-governmental organization that monitors online censorship, and this agency reportedly blocked them on the 4th of October. They told the TASS news agency that the website was blocked, quote, the request of the Prosecutor's General's Office for the dissemination of unreliably socially significant information of a financial nature. According to a local news outlet, RBC, They said that OKX had, quote, published information related to the activities of financial pyramids, as well as information on the provision of financial services provided by persons who do not have a right to provide them. Specifically, if you go to their website, it shows OKX was blocked under Article 15.3 of Russian law on information technologies, and information protection. And while OKX is blocked in Russia, that doesn't seem to mean very much. A simple VPN can get around that. And although there are some people who don't want you to know it and would really rather you didn't, OKX has a Russian language Discord channel. And in their channel, they are asking people not to use a VPN to get around the law. They said, quote, "We do not recommend using a VPN when accessing OKX, as this will trigger our risk controls and can lead to a ban of our account." This is a heck of a step for Russia to take, because OKX started out as a Chinese company. They have since relocated to the Seychelles. In either case, they're not honoring the trade restrictions and sanctions that the West has imposed on Russia. OKX is the third largest crypto exchange in the world by trading volume, and that is a huge market to intentionally cut yourself out of. It's one of the few international cross-border exchanges left to Russia, and then they're cutting that one off. They also refused to honor a request by the South Korean authorities to freeze Kwon's assets, but that's a different thing. So this kind of thing isn't new for the Russians. This has happened before, only to be reversed in the courts. Binance got blocked in Russia. A local court said the quiet part out loud, quote, "Issuance and usage of bitcoins are fully decentralized, and there is no way to regulate it by the government, which contradicts the current Russian law." Now, that block was in effect from September of 2022 until January of last year, when they got a regional court to reverse the order, which is funny because now Binance is blocking Russia. And not just exchanges either. Other crypto-related sites have been blocked. Russia blocked 6 crypto news sites in 2020. At least one of them had that block lifted a week later by a district court's decision. Staying on the topics of both Russia and banning, let's turn our attention to the EU. Because with a statement on October 6th, the EU regulators banned all crypto wallets, accounts, and custody services coming out of Russia. It was in a statement released today that the EU announced another set of sanctions against Russia. They said, quote, "The existing prohibitions on crypto assets have been tightened by banning all crypto asset wallets, accounts, or custody services, irrespective of the amount of the wallet." Now, this is the 8th set of political and economic measures taken against Russia after Vladimir Putin ordered the invasion of Ukraine. This time, they're including a total cross-border ban on crypto payments between Russians and the EU. This means a ban on, quote, "all crypto asset wallets, accounts, or custody services, irrespective of the amount of the wallet." Now, these new sanctions are in response to the EU, what they're calling a sham succession referendum in 4 Ukrainian regions, as well as continued troop mobilization. Oh, and yeah, the threat of nuclear war. Now, that bit about irrespective of the amount of wallet comes from the fact that previous sanctions capped payments at 10,000 euros. This new ban furthers the EU's stated desire to, quote, "further deprive the Kremlin's military and industrial complex of key components and technologies." Now, apparently, there were concerns that the 10,000 euro cap didn't go far enough, that transactions were still getting through, albeit to a lesser extent. An EU official has said, quote, "We realized that transactions were still ongoing some scale. We wanted to make sure that these services are not rendered anymore." Now, keep in mind, it was just yesterday that MiCA went into effect, saying basically wallet providers have to verify identities of those using their services. And while that obviously doesn't apply to things like self-custody software, it could have an effect on Russians if the sanctions are still in effect when MiCA goes into effect. And that's where we're going to leave it tonight. I want to thank you, my listeners, because when you stop listening, I will stop talking. Take care of yourselves, but take care of each other too. We'll see you tomorrow night.